There comes a moment, sometimes so quiet you almost miss it, other times so powerful it shakes you awake, when you realize something within you is changing. It's not just a passing thought or a fleeting emotion. Deeper than that, it's as if an old version of yourself is fading, making way for something stronger, wiser, and more alive. You might not have the words for it yet, but you can feel it. Your soul is rising. It's not a small shift. It's not about positive thinking or temporary motivation. This is transformation at the deepest level. A movement from confusion to clarity, from fear to freedom, from being lost to standing firmly in your truth. Most people never notice it happening. They stay trapped in the same cycles, chasing the same empty things, never realizing they are meant for more. But you feel it. Something inside you is stirring, and no matter how hard you try to ignore it, the call only grows louder. At first, it might feel unsettling. You start questioning things you once accepted without thought. The job that used to give you security now feels like a cage. The relationships that once felt comfortable now leave you restless. Even the distractions that used to numb you, endless scrolling, gossip, mindless consumption, begin to lose their grip. You crave something real, something meaningful, but you can't quite name it yet. That discomfort, that's your soul breaking free. Then comes the resistance. The moment you start changing, the world will try to drag you back. People will question you. They'll call you too serious or too intense because you no longer laugh at the same jokes or chase the same empty goals. Old habits will whisper to you, tempting you to fall back into comfort. Fear will rise up, telling you it's safer to stay small. This is the test. Most people fail here. They feel the pull of something greater, but when things get hard, they turn back. But not you. If your soul is truly rising, you'll feel that resistance, and you'll push through anyway. This is where discipline becomes your greatest ally. A rising soul doesn't float effortlessly toward the light. It climbs, it fights, it chooses again and again to do what's necessary rather than what's easy. You start waking up earlier, not because you have to, but because you crave the silence of the morning. You move your body not for vanity, but because it's a temple you've neglected for too long. You let go of relationships that drain you, not out of cruelty, because you finally understand your energy is sacred. Every small choice becomes a brick in the foundation of your new self. And then, one day, you realize the world looks different. Same sunsets that used to pass unnoticed now take your breath away. The struggles that once broke you now feel like lessons. You no longer beg for validation because you found something far more valuable. Your own truth is what it means for your soul to rise. It's not about reaching some final destination. It's about the climb itself. The moment you commit to the ascent, you've already won. The path won't be easy. Easy was never the point. The point is to rise. And once you've felt that pull, there's no going back. There comes a moment in every person's journey when the noise of the world begins to fade into background static, and what was once urgent suddenly feels trivial. This quiet revolution within marks the first undeniable sign your soul is ascending. You find yourself seeking solitude not as an escape, but as homecoming. Where you once feared silence, you now crave it. Where empty chatter once entertained you, it now drains you. This isn't withdrawal from life, but rather a profound engagement with the only voice that ever truly mattered, your own. Modern world operates on distraction, feeding us endless streams of stimulation designed to keep us from ever meeting ourselves. Social media scrolls replace self-reflection. Podcasts and playlists drown out inner wisdom. We've been conditioned to believe solitude equals loneliness, when in truth, it's our most sacred space. When your soul begins its ascent, you start recognizing these distractions for what they are, not comforts, but chains. The moment you choose to sit in stillness without reaching for your phone, when you prefer a walk in nature to another episode of mindless entertainment, when the thought of spending an evening alone with your journal excites you more than crowded parties, these are the quiet victories of a rising soul. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. At first, Silence might feel uncomfortable, even terrifying. We've spent years, perhaps decades, running from ourselves, our doubts, our pains, our unrealized potential. Sitting with ourselves means finally facing what we've been avoiding. The miracle, when you stop running, the monsters you feared turn out to be paper tigers. The pain you avoided confronting becomes your greatest teacher. The dreams you buried out of fear begin whispering to you again, time with the clarity of truth. This is why seekers through the ages have valued solitude, not because the answers come easily, but because they only come when we're still enough to hear them. Consider how you've changed. There was a time when being alone with your thoughts felt like punishment. Now, you protect these moments like the treasures they are. Where you once needed constant validation from others, you now find deeper validation within. The opinions that once kept you up at night now barely register. This isn't indifference, it's the emergence of something far more powerful: self-knowledge. You're no longer a leaf blown by every wind of outside judgment, a tree rooted in your own truth. The more time you spend in your own company, the more you realize how little you need from anyone else to feel whole. This growing comfort with solitude reveals a profound spiritual truth. We are never truly alone. As the superficial layers of identity peel away in quiet reflection, we discover the vast inner landscape that connects us to something greater. Mystics call this the divine presence. Psychologists might call it the unconscious. The label matters less than the experience, that sense of being both fully yourself and part of something infinite. In solitude, we don't lose connection. We discover the deepest connection of all. The practical implications are radical. When you stop fearing solitude, you stop making decisions from loneliness. Relationships become choices rather than needs. Work becomes expression rather than validation. Life becomes intentional rather than reactive. You begin to recognize how much of your past behavior was just trying to fill voids with people, with achievements, with substances, noise. Now, those voids don't terrify you anymore because you've learned they were never empty to begin with. They were sacred spaces waiting to be filled with your authentic presence. Watch how this changes your daily life. Start waking earlier, not out of obligation, but because dawn's quiet hours have become your most precious time. You'll find yourself turning down invitations not out of antisocial tendencies, but because you've learned the value of your own company. Books will replace small talk. Meditation will replace distraction. This isn't isolation. It's the cultivation of an inner sanctuary that no external circumstance can violate. The philosopher Pascal was right when he said all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Your rising soul is solving that fundamental problem. An important distinction here between healthy solitude and unhealthy isolation. The soul solitude is nourishing, not draining. It leaves you energized, not depleted. Connects you more deeply to others, even as it roots you in yourself. This is the paradox. The more comfortable you become alone, the more authentically you can show up in relationships. Stop using people as distractions from yourself and start engaging with them from a place of wholeness. This first sign, the shift from fearing silence to craving it, creates the foundation for all other spiritual growth. Without learning to be at peace in our own company, we remain forever dependent on external validation. Without developing the capacity for stillness, we can never hear our soul's guidance. Without embracing solitude, we'll keep mistaking the world's noise for truth. Your growing love for quiet isn't antisocial. It's the most profound social act. There is making peace with yourself so you can truly be present for others. As this transformation deepens, you'll notice an interesting phenomenon. Your tolerance for superficiality diminishes. You'll naturally gravitate toward deeper conversations, more meaningful connections, more substantial experiences. The frivolous will fall away not through effort, but through natural disinterest. This isn't elitism, it's evolution. Your soul is prioritizing what truly nourishes it, and in doing so, it's leading you home to yourself. The journey isn't always easy. There will be moments when the silence feels too heavy, when the old temptations to distract yourself return with renewed force. This is normal. Spiritual growth isn't linear. What matters is that you keep returning to the stillness, keep protecting those sacred moments of solitude. With time, what once required discipline becomes your greatest joy. What began as practice becomes presence, and that presence becomes the foundation for everything else. Your rising soul will manifest in your life. This is the first and most fundamental sign your soul is rising, not dramatic visions or sudden enlightenments, but the quiet, persistent call inward. The more you answer that call, the more the other signs will naturally emerge. But it all begins here, in the sacred space of your own company, in the courage to be still, in the willingness to listen to the voice that's been whispering to you all along. The world will try to pull you back into noise and distraction, but once you've tasted this silence, you'll never confuse the two again. Your soul is rising, and its first victory is teaching you the incomparable value of your own presence. There comes a pivotal moment in every spiritual awakening when you realize you can no longer carry the weight of what once defined you. Like a tree shedding dead leaves in autumn, your soul begins releasing what no longer serves its growth, not through force, but through natural surrender. This isn't about willpower or conscious decision making, it's an organic unfolding. Inevitable as the changing seasons, the relationships that once felt comforting now drain your energy. The habits that numbed your pain now feel like prison bars. Even long-held beliefs about who you are start crumbling like sandcastles before the tide. This is the second sacred sign your soul is rising. You're becoming allergic to anything false within yourself. The process often begins subtly. You might notice a growing discomfort during conversations where you used to pretend to be someone you're not. The drinks that once helped you relax now leave you feeling disconnected from your truth. That job you tolerated for years suddenly feels like a betrayal of your potential. These aren't random shifts in preference. They're the soul's intelligent discernment coming online. Like an internal compass suddenly realigning to true north, you find yourself unable to tolerate inauthenticity, especially your own. What once seemed like personal flaws, your sensitivity, your intensity, your unwillingness to go along to get along, now reveal themselves as your greatest strengths. The mask you wore to please others now feels suffocating, and one by one you let them fall away. Purification process follows a divine intelligence far wiser than our conscious minds. The soul knows exactly what needs to be released and when. You'll often find yourself letting go of things you once thought you couldn't live without, while simultaneously being drawn to what you once might have avoided. That friendship built on gossip, it naturally fades without drama. Compulsive need to check emails after hours, it disappears without struggle. These aren't losses, they're the soul's way of creating space for what truly belongs in your life. The more you trust this process, the more graceful it becomes. Resistance only makes it painful, surrender makes it sacred. What makes this stage particularly challenging is that the people around you may not understand your transformation. They'll accuse you of changing, and they'll be right, but they'll say it like it's a bad thing. Some relationships will withstand your evolution, others will break like waves against the shore. Is where courage becomes essential, the courage to disappoint others in service to your truth, the courage to stand alone when necessary, the courage to keep faith in your unfolding, even when no one else sees what you see. Your rising soul isn't asking you to burn bridges recklessly, but to stop maintaining connections that require you to betray yourself. The financial and material realms often undergo dramatic shifts during this phase. You might feel called to simplify your life, to release possessions that once symbolized success but now feel like burdens. That expensive car that once made you feel important, it's just a car now. Designer clothes you used to collect, they're just fabric. The soul cares nothing for status symbols, it craves authenticity above all else. As your inner values reorganize, your external world inevitably follows. You'll find yourself drawn to quality over quantity, meaning over prestige, utility over appearance. This isn't austerity, it's the joy of living in alignment. Perhaps most profoundly, stage involves releasing old versions of yourself, the identities you constructed to survive, but that no longer reflect who you're becoming. The overachiever who thought worth came from accomplishments. The people pleaser who confused love with approval. The victim who believed pain was their identity. These false selves don't disappear through confrontation, but through compassionate observation. You learn to witness them with understanding, recognizing they served you once, but can't come where you're going. Like a snake shedding its skin, you leave behind what's no longer alive in you. Emotional landscape of this transformation can feel turbulent. There may be grief for what you're leaving behind, even when you know it's right. There might be fear of the unknown, especially when old safety nets disappear. Moments of disorientation are common when you've released the old but the new hasn't yet taken form. These are not signs you're off path, but proof you're exactly where you need to be. The soul's growth follows the rhythm of nature. Follow rebirth. You can't rush the seasons of your becoming. What eventually emerges from this process is something miraculous, a growing capacity to trust yourself completely. Where you once looked outside for answers, you now consult an inner wisdom that never steers you wrong. Decisions that once required endless pros and cons lists now come with quiet certainty. The opinions of others land lightly when they align with your truth and fall away when they don't. This isn't arrogance. It's the humble confidence of someone who's come home to themselves. Practical signs of this stage manifest in surprising ways. Stop forcing relationships that require you to shrink. You leave toxic environments without needing to explain or justify. You speak your truth even when your voice shakes. Material possessions lose their emotional charge. You enjoy them when they serve you, release them when they don't. Most importantly, you develop a nose for inauthenticity in yourself and others, and the courage to honor what you sense. Soul's discernment becomes your most trusted guide. This purification never really ends. It simply becomes more refined. As you grow, you'll continue encountering aspects of yourself ready to be released. The difference is that over time, you learn to welcome these moments as gifts rather than resist them as threats. Each release makes you lighter, clearer, more available to life. Comes a moment in every spiritual journey when the world around you begins to shimmer with a sacred presence you never noticed before. The morning light filtering through leaves becomes a whispered prayer. Steady rhythm of ocean waves transforms into ancient wisdom. Even the humble earth beneath your feet feels alive with consciousness. Awakening to the divine intelligence pulsing through all creation marks the third, undeniable sign your soul is rising. You're developing eyes that truly see and ears that truly hear. Where you once perceived separation, you now feel connection. Where you saw inert matter, you now recognize sacred presence. Shift in perception doesn't happen through effort, but through surrender, a gradual softening of the mental barriers we erect between ourselves and the living world. You might first notice it in small moments, welling up unexpectedly at the sight of geese flying in perfect formation, or a sudden stillness coming over you as you watch sunlight dance on water. Aren't sentimental reactions, but sacred encounters, your soul recognizing itself in the great tapestry of existence. The more you honor these moments, the more frequently they come, until one day you realize you're moving through a world alive with meaning and message. The tree in your backyard becomes a teacher of resilience. The changing seasons mirror your own cycles of growth. Even challenges become sacred lessons wrapped in ordinary packaging. What's actually shifting is your level of perception. Most people navigate life through a filter of concepts and labels: tree, bird, rock, seeing only their utilitarian functions. But as your soul rises, these mental constructs begin to dissolve, revealing the radiant aliveness beneath. The Japanese call this oigen, profound awareness of the universe that triggers deep emotional response. Celtic tradition speaks of thin places, where the veil between worlds becomes transparent. Whatever the name, the experience is universal, a homecoming to the truth that we were never separate from nature, only dreaming we were. Awakening carries practical consequences in daily life. You'll find yourself treating all beings with newfound reverence, speaking gently to plants, rescuing insects instead of swatting them, feeling genuine grief at environmental destruction. These aren't affectations but natural expressions of your expanding awareness. Consumer choices become moral decisions. That cheap t-shirt now carries the weight of unknown workers' suffering. The plastic waste feels like violence against the earth herself. Isn't guilt but responsibility flowering from connection? You start making different choices not because you should, but because you can't pretend you don't know better anymore. Relationships transform under this new light. You begin seeing the divine spark in every person, even those who irritate or oppose you. The rude cashier isn't just a bad mood, she's a soul carrying invisible burdens. The political opponent isn't just wrong, he's a fragment of the whole, expressing one facet of a truth too vast for any single perspective. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat, but rather engaging from a place of profound respect for the sacred journey each soul is undertaking. Conflicts remain, but they lose their personal sting. You're no longer fighting an enemy, but working with a mirror. Mystical traditions all point to this realization in different languages. The Hindus speak of darshan, sacred seeing. Indigenous wisdom keepers talk of listening to the land. Christian mystics describe seeing God in all things. Science now confirms what the ancients knew, that at quantum levels, everything is energy and information in dynamic relationship. Your rising soul isn't imagining connections. It's perceiving the fundamental reality that was always there, waiting for your awareness to align with it. Stage often brings synchronicities that defy logical explanation, thinking of a friend who suddenly calls, encountering exactly the right book at the right moment, seeing repeating numbers that feel like cosmic winks. Aren't coincidences but confirmations that you're tuning into the deeper currents of existence. The universe begins responding to your inner state with uncanny precision, reflecting back the energy you emit. What you call luck is actually resonance. What you call miracles are simply laws of consciousness most haven't learned to work with yet. A shadow side to this expansion worth naming, the temptation to escape worldly responsibilities under the guise of spirituality. The rising soul isn't called to reject the material world, but to sanctify it. You don't transcend life, you bring more presence to it. That means showing up for difficult conversations, paying bills on time, and doing the dishes with as much reverence as you'd bring to a meditation cushion. Sacred isn't somewhere else, it's right here, in the laundry and the traffic jams and the tax returns, if we have eyes to see. Practical signs of this stage show up in unexpected ways. You might develop new sensitivities to artificial lights, processed foods, or violent media, because your system now recognizes these as assaults on consciousness. Your dreams may become more vivid and symbolic as your unconscious finds new ways to communicate. You'll likely feel drawn to spend time in nature, not for recreation, but for communion. Even your sense of time might shift, less linear, more cyclical, periods of intense productivity followed by necessary follow stretches. These are all signs your nervous system is rewiring itself to accommodate higher frequencies of awareness. The most profound gift of this stage is the erosion of existential loneliness. When you perceive the aliveness in all things, you're never truly alone. A conversation with an old tree becomes rich with wisdom. The wind carries messages. The stars feel like ancestors watching over you. This isn't fantasy or psychosis. It's the most sane and accurate way of perceiving we're capable of as humans. The modern world has simply talked us out of this native knowing, and your rising soul is reclaiming it. As this connection deepens, you'll naturally become a steward rather than a consumer of life. Environmentalism stops being a political position and becomes personal integrity. You can't claim connection while participating in destruction. Compassion extends beyond humans to all sentient beings. Your lifestyle simplifies not through deprivation, but because genuine fulfillment requires less than you thought. Each choice becomes a prayer, each action an offering. Sacred connection isn't something you need to create. It's always been there, waiting for the static of distraction to clear so you can experience it. Your rising soul isn't acquiring anything new, but remembering something ancient and essential. The more you trust this remembrance, the more the world reveals its hidden dimensions to you. What was once metaphor becomes lived reality. You are the tree, the river, the star, and they are you. Separate only in appearance, united in essence. This is the third sign your soul is rising, not that you're becoming more spiritual, that you're finally waking up to how spiritual everything always was. We began this journey by noticing the quiet stirrings within. Those first signs that your soul was awakening. The growing need for solitude, not as escape but as homecoming. The natural release of what no longer served you, like autumn leaves falling without resistance. The dawning realization that the world around you was alive with sacred connection. Every tree, every breath, every challenge whispering wisdom. And finally, the profound shift where obstacles became invitations and every stumble revealed itself as part of a grander choreography. Are not separate milestones but interconnected threads of the same unfolding. The solitude you craved, keynote 1, created the space to discern what needed releasing, keynote 2. That release cleared the debris blocking your perception, allowing you to see the divine woven into all things, keynote 3. And with those eyes opened, you could finally recognize challenges as the soul's perfect curriculum, keynote 40. Is the spiral path of awakening, each turn drawing you deeper into truth, each lesson preparing you for the next. What's emerging now is a life no longer lived on the surface, but in radiant depth. You move through the world differently. People may call you changed, and they're right. You've shed the hollow roles you once played. Where you once sought validation, you now offer authenticity. Where you once feared silence, you've become a vessel for its wisdom. The mundane has become miraculous. A cup of tea is a meditation. A walk is a communion. A setback is a setup for growth. This isn't enlightenment as some distant peak, but awakening as a daily practice, showing up again and again for the life your soul chose. Yet the journey doesn't end here. A rising soul never stagnates. There will be days when old fears resurface, when the noise of the world temporarily drowns out your inner voice. This isn't failure. It's the necessary friction that keeps you growing. Remember what you've learned, retreat into solitude. When you need recentering, keynote went in. Release what weighs you down without apology, keynote 2. Seek the sacred hidden in plain sight, keynote 3. And meet every challenge as a teacher in disguise, keynote 4. These are your compass points when the path feels unclear. To those just beginning to sense these stirrings, take heart. The very fact that you're listening means the journey has already begun. And to those further along, keep going. Your evolution is a gift the world desperately needs. Every time you choose truth over comfort, presence over distraction, love over fear, you make it easier for others to do the same. This is the great homecoming we're all destined for. Not to some distant heaven, to the truth that was within us all along. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you've always been. The solitude, the surrender, the sacred connection, alchemy of adversity, they've all been guiding you here to this moment, this version of yourself, this unshakable knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. The mountain you've been climbing was never out there. It was always within. And with every step you've been ascending to meet yourself. So keep climbing, not because you're incomplete, but because the view keeps getting clearer. The world needs souls who've risen. The world needs you. Stand tall, breathe deep. The journey continues, but you're no longer searching. You're living from the soul's unshakable ground. And from this vantage point, everything, the light, the shadows, the joy, revealed as part of the same sacred whole, you are rising. And in your rising, you lift us all.